The international experts were also part of the conversation. Jolita Isobel Atienza works at the GIZ Philippines and talks of how different SDGs have been affected in the Philippines.
So, like most countries, the government and other sectors have been striving to meet the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. It has been specifically focused on reducing or eradicating poverty, SDG 8, and SDG 10. Prior to the pandemic, the Philippines was already making substantial improvements. Poverty was down to 16%, labor productivity was up, income inequality was lessening, and unemployment decreased to 5.7% in 2018, although underemployment was still up at 16%. However, the current pandemic has placed the Philippines in a precarious situation, seriously threatening not only the weakened healthcare system, but also achieving its efforts in achieving the targets by 2030. The lockdown measures undertaken to curb the spread of the virus have resulted in business closures and increasing the number of displaced workers. Most vulnerable are those working in the informal economy, many of whom are women, seasonal, and migrant workers. In July, for instance, around 4 million Filipinos were left jobless, and 15.8% of those are in Metro Manila, where most of the positive cases are. And also a lot of overseas Filipino workers, specifically those working in the Middle East, were displaced, thus affecting remittances. While the situation is bleak at the moment, the government, private sector, and NGOs are trying their level best to reduce the negative impacts. The government, for example, has provided cash and in-kind assistance to vulnerable groups. I think about a month ago, it has already released the SAP, or the Social Amelioration Package, and it has also provided livelihood grants and other loans and support to displaced workers and repatriated workers. The private sector, which has actually immensely supported the government in providing personal protective equipment to healthcare workers. Some have already reopened. Thus, those who were left jobless before now regain their jobs. But of course, a big chunk of those in the small and medium enterprises have yet to fully operate, and unfortunately, some have ceased operations, especially those belonging to the food and beverage industry. The NGO sector has also played a major part in helping, such as supporting the marginalized groups by providing goods and cash assistance, and they have actually helped a lot of displaced jeepney drivers, many of whom have resorted to begging because of the fact that public transportation is not has stopped. It hasn't been in full operation since March. So these are the impacts on the SDGs and the efforts to regain and cope while the pandemic is still affecting many of us here in the Philippines.
Hello everyone, this is Shayek Ahmed and I'm a humanitarian worker from Bangladesh, which is located in South Asia. As we all know that from the beginning of this year we have been passing through a critical situation during COVID-19, of course across the globe. The outbreak caught everyone by surprise and the majority of the countries enforced the lockdown to control the spread. This lockdown posed so many challenges concerning several aspects such as our work style, education, psychosocial things, economic and so on. This calls for an urgency to study these impacts, mostly the negative ones, and then come up with strong strategies to diminish them in countries. I'll not get into the detail about the key features of COVID-19, as I can recall, or as I should think that by this time all of us already have got the overall idea about the transmission, diagnosis of the disease, risk of the spread of the disease, and of course till now We know that there is no concrete vaccine, and there are some hopes, but let's hope for the best, because there are no concrete medication procedure or even the concrete vaccine which will help us to prevent the thing for the mass people. We know that COVID-19 emerged in December 2009 in China, and the first case outside China was reported in Thailand. Thailand is located in the Southeast Asian part, and of course the South Asia's part, which is really close to China. And the proximity of this region or these countries to China and its vast trade relation with the latter has exposed these regions' vulnerability in terms of getting affected by the COVID-19. In South Asia, of course, the countries like India, Pakistan and Bangladesh are on the rough ride, and the pandemic will affect low-income people from hospitality, manufacturing and transport sectors who have very limited access to the healthcare services or of course to the social safety nets. Moreover, the situation would become severe for these countries with serious pre-existing challenges such as destiny of the their lifestyle, the way they work, overall density of the population, frequent natural disaster or the prevailing climate change issues, insufficient health facilities for the mass, and the partially developed IT infrastructure sector are some of the notable challenging factors. These issues are already raising so many serious concerns in terms of achieving the globally 17 sustainable development goals, for which all of us are providing relentless effort. In Bangladesh, there is another unique dilemma, would be to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in world's largest refugee camps of around 1.1 million people located in Cox's, which is located in the southeastern district of Bangladesh. The impact of the lockdown, which is imposed due to COVID-19 to make ourselves protected from the negative effects of virus, and this has led down to unique changes in many of our thoughts. The threat of losing, of course, the loved one from the disease, the job insecurity, social isolation, which will lead to stress, anxiety, and other psychosocial pressures. Now, this was a discussion about the overall idea. Let's just also, in connection to this, hear from one of the young humanitarian workers of Bangladesh. Firstly, we will hear from Mr. Noor Ahmed regarding his thoughts on the situation.
Hello everyone, my name is Noor Ahmed. I'm also a humanitarian worker. Today, I will talk about the impact of COVID-19 situation on SDG 4, that is quality education, as well as SDG 10, that's to reduce inequality. Let's talk about the SDG 4. SDG 4 talk about the quality education. What does it mean? Quality education means inequality in education at all the level for all the vulnerable people. Education is a fundamental human rights. There are 263 million children and youth around the world who are kept out of the classroom. Former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon already talked about what is education. Last year, for the equal rights as well as provide the education of perfect, our Bangladesh government just introduced and took the initiative to mandatory secondary education to all. But in the effect of COVID-19, all the physical class totally shut down from the March 2020. Well, in this time, another platform is introduced, that is online platform around the world. So in our country, the educational institution temporarily was shut down, and later on, the University Grant Commission Bangladesh allowed private university to conduct education activities online, as well as the final exam and evaluation. But in the case of public university, this application and this policy are not work at all. That I'm also a student of public university. I'm pursuing my MBA degree from public university. I also face this problem. Well, if I talk about another opportunity arises during the time to gain the wide coverage in Bangladesh. Broadcasting pre-recorded secondary school lessons are conducted class 6 to 10 grade through the television, radio, mobile phone for students who are lack of computer and internet facilities. As I said earlier, physically class totally remained off until the announcement was given for the Ministry of Education. Let's talk talk about the SDG 10. I only talk about the SDG 4, that is quality education. Right now SDG 10 is the reduced equality. Online platform is introduced to provide the educational facilities to all. As I said earlier, that Bangladesh is living under poverty line. Most of the people live under the poverty line. For that reason, they are not able to buy any smart devices for their children to continue their education. Besides that, they are really struggling to survive themselves in this situation. Later on, I will talk about the lack of network coverage in the remote area. Most of the people in our country, they live in the remote area, and that for that reason, to get the access of the network to attend the online classes, they are facing so many problems. Most of the cases, they have to go outside, even hill place to get the network. But in my perception, potential solution can be explored, such as modifying the syllabus by keeping the important topics intact, and conducting the exam in the large place, such as sports playground, hall room, that would be help to the student to reduce their session journey in this year.
Thank you so much for your thoughts, Mr. Noor. Now let us hear from Mr. Takbir Manzar about his views.
Hi, this is Takbir Manzar. I'm also a humanitarian worker, and I'm going to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on SDC 1, no poverty, SDC 2, zero hunger, and SDC 3, good health and well-being. In this poverty line, this is the world of open market society. It is quite tough to stay at home without work. That means no work, no pay. So most of the peoples of our countries living in the below daily basis worker. So if we are staying at home, they couldn't work properly and they couldn't earn money. And also the ready-made garment sector is affected with lots of problems. They reduce their suppliers and reduce their orders. So their employees are going to be less of poverty. So in the other hand, the corporate section and the sales divisions, the sales departments people are also facing the same problems. They reduce their salaries, and also lots of people have no jobs really. So they are staying at home, and on the other hand, the people are hawkers staying working at the street. So they are also having a problems of earning money. So we are also living in most of the people at poverty line. So now poverty line is going to be increased without work. Because this is a capitalization war. So without money, nothing can do basically. So and money comes only works, and few people can work at home. So most of the people go to outside. So on the other hand, is the no hunger. So in that case, if you think the no money, so no food as well. So without money, we can have a food as well. So in the Dhaka city, lots of people living in the streets, and also lots of street children. Their own ambition is looking for food all the life. They're happy with having food for one meal for all day, but they couldn't have it because most of the people are staying at home. So if we don't go outside, we don't do anything. So they're begging and they're looking for food. So they don't have this food at all. So in that case, they are having less hunger. They are having lots of problems of food. And on the other hand, this is a good health and well-being. If you think of it, all the people having food is less protein. So in their diet plans, there is no only carb. So no diet for these proteins and no diet for fat. So they are having foods and looking for less nutritious food. So in that case, they have lots of problems of the physical well-being. So on the other hand, also the mental health. So people are suffering for lots of frustrations because of less jobs, because of no money. So it's all the impact of COVID-19 situation. In these situations, we also planning the way out. So in that case, government also take actions for the garments workers. They are giving so much opportunities for this company, so they are provide their salaries as well. And corporate bank also coming forward to giving a less interest loan as well. So on the other hand, the new business opportunities also increase for this young chaps peoples. They are working for this online deliveries, online food deliveries, and few of them are a new entrepreneur working on this their home and freelancing. Though it is quite tough to transfer this money as well, but the Bcash and Nogod also playing the good role over here to have new opportunities for the young chaps are doing business, for the people who are thinking the new way of development. So maybe the new way of business service also be started the way, but this is opportunities very less people's and the market also less. So rest of the things we want to sort it out. Rest of the things we need to be more planned, more thinking to sort it out this problem as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Takbir, for sharing your valuable points. So now, apart from the few specific points that they have raised in their discussion, in general we have to be very cautious in limiting the negative impacts. So measures such as adopting WHO step-by-step guidelines for countries to develop the National Action Plan would be very vital. The development of humanitarian and the other sectors, like the organizations that are working in the development sector as well as humanitarian sectors, along with government, should come forward to reprogram their activities in response to COVID-19. Already Bangladesh government has taken several comprehensive steps which are really good, and now along with the support from all the development and humanitarian organizations, there should be some key areas to focus, and already they have their plans in place. So the major key areas that are in focus are the mental health and psychosocial problems, dealing with that, then the ensuring the food security problems. So there has to be steps which will ensure the food security pass. Definitely there should be focus on the reduced inequality part, which is of course some of the major goals of SDGs. There should be focus on ensuring the overall access to wash facilities, and of course, the other strategies related to education, as also they have the other colleagues actually have mentioned.
IKEA Sustainably wants to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Education is a key to prosperity and opens a world of opportunities, making it possible for each of us to contribute to a progressive, healthy society.
Hello everyone, my name is Rianne Doller. I'm the content manager of Icare Sustainability. Our mission is to ensure quality education for everyone, also during this pandemic. That's why we created an article for the Acts for SDG week, where we analyzed the impact of COVID on education. In that article, we also propose some solutions to include everyone in education. Because now many students cannot educate themselves anymore because the schools are closed and they lack the means or knowledge to go and take their education online. Also, many times the teachers don't have the means or knowledge to take the lessons online. That's how our goals of the missions are linked to the SDGs as well.